right, good evening, everyone. It's a little bit after 7, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks. If you wouldn't mind, check your phone, make sure you got it on silence or vibrate, whatever. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order, Landmarks Commission on April 30th. First order of business, roll call. You got everybody, Daphne? Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of minutes from the last meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as disseminated by Daphne?
Hilton makes a motion to approve the minutes.
What's that?
I make a motion
Okay.
to approve the minutes.
Sorry, this is my bad ear too,
Second.
Elizabeth. All right, any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. All right, thank you all for showing up. This is great. Landmarks Commission, normally we meet in a small little conference room and roll in an extra chair when someone shows up. So thank you all for showing up to provide your input tonight. Before we get into the public hearing portion, I'd like to take a few minutes just to review the purpose of the Landmarks Commission and to define exactly what a historic district is in accordance with the city ordinance. Because during the public hearing portion, everyone will get 3 minutes to speak, but that time goes quickly. And I wouldn't want you to inadvertently spend time speaking about things that are outside the purview of the Landmarks Commission. So first up, Daphne. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. This is straight out of the ordinance. Chapter 2.35 and lists the duties of the function of the Landmarks Commission. The paragraph you see is directly from the ordinance. I've taken the liberty of bolding some of the text, which I think is applicable to establishing a historic district. And in particular, draw your attention to the phrases of safeguarding the city's cultural, social, economic, political, and architectural history, foster civic pride, promote education, pleasure, and welfare of the city's residents. The thing to remember, Landmarks Commission is one part of a bigger process when it comes to the evolution and development of the city. If the city's historical and cultural heritage is to be erased, then it should be a conscious decision and not occur by accident, inaction, or happenstance. And so we're here tonight to receive public input on the potential of establishing a railroad historic district. Next slide. Definition, there you go. A historic district is an area designated by the Landmarks Commission which contains one or more landmarks or landmark sites, as well as those abutting improvement parcels which the commission determines should fall under the provisions of this section to assure that their appearance and development is harmonious with such landmarks or landmark sites. So the area we're talking about today runs generally east to west, along the south side of Terrace Avenue, including the Aurora Street cul-de-sac and a small portion of Middleton Street and a couple of properties there on High Point and Terrace Avenue. The proposed historic district is anchored by 5 existing landmarks. Construction dates of historically significant structures range from 1858 to 1913. The average year of construction is 1890. Architectural styles include Greek Revival, Queen Anne, American Craftsman, American Foursquare, front gable, side gable, gable L, and bungalow. If you have any questions about those, ask Elizabeth afterwards. No, but very distinctive architectural styles. And in the proposed district, and again, it's proposed, 62% of the parcels within the district contains historically significant homes. So when we looked at the homes and came up with an initial draft district, we thought, if we're going to have a public hearing, let's make it encompass anything that might be encompassed. And so property owners in that proposed district and any property owners within 200 feet of the boundary all got notifications. And so if you're wondering, am I in or out, there's a map over here next to the wall to see if you were one of those 200 feet people or inside of the district. The associate city planner and the landmarks vice chair and I hosted an information table at the Railroad Depot on Sunday, April 21st, to answer any questions from city residents that they may have about the proposed district. Nearly all our conversations included two questions. How does this affect what I can do to my property? And what does harmonious mean with regards to the district, both for the historic homes themselves and for homes on or buildings on abutting parcels? So I think it's worthwhile to take a few minutes and talk through these two questions. So I appreciate that when you browse the city landmarks ordinance, it sounds pretty stern, listing many things you can't do. But what I'd like to do is talk you through the actual process of doing work on your home or building from the perspective of the owner of the property in the historic district. So it starts with the property owner applying for a building permit. The city requires a permit for various reasons: electrical, plumbing, structural, etc. And they have their own methods for keeping an eye on things. A property being in a historic district doesn't affect whether or not a permit is required. Landmarks has nothing to do with permit requirements or policing of construction work in the city. When an application is submitted to the building inspector, it is they who determine first that the property is in a historical district, and is it specifically external structural work? If the answer is yes to both, then it gets referred to landmarks for consideration. If not, then that ends. It does not come to landmarks. Landmarks Commission then determines, is it a historic building or a non-historic building in an adjoining parcel? If it is a historic building, we ask two questions. Does the proposed work change, destroy, or affect any exterior architectural feature or negatively affect the district's harmonious appearance? If the answer to both is negative, then the permit's approved. If not, then the commission works with the property owner for up to 6 months to find a compromise. If no compromise is found, then the permit is approved. If it's a non-historic building, we ask, would the exterior of the structure harmonize with the external appearance of neighboring structures in the district? If yes, then it's approved. If not, again, the commission will work with the property owner for up to 6 months, and if no compromise is found, the permit is approved. So you see something across the bottom of that chart when it comes to approval. I've been on the Landmarks Commission 9 years, and I can think of only one instance when more than a single meeting was needed to reach an agreement with the property owner, and it concerned a major addition, doubling the size of a historic building, and that took 3 meetings. So Landmarks Commission meetings are regularly scheduled once a month. We have also met on short notice to meet the needs of residents when asked. For example, last October, the owner of a landmarked home wanted to take advantage of unseasonably warm weather to get a jump start on a project. The associate planner notified the commissioners, a meeting was scheduled then that week, a few days later, and the project was approved. And I appreciate their various viewpoints on this extra step to do external structural work in a historic district. And the commission makes an effort not to make it a burden. On one side of the spectrum are folks that feel any building permit is an unnecessary hassle. And on the other end are folks that were probably alarmed at the leeway we've given to property owners in a historic district. But if you watch a TV show like This Old House and they're working with a preservation committee on a Revolutionary era Boston home, there are a lot of restrictions. But landmarks and historic ordinances vary quite differently among municipalities. So if you see, on This Old House, someone going through a nut roll to pick the right hinge for their front door, that's not Middleton, okay? That's historic Boston. So bottom line is there are homeowners associations within the city of Middleton that have far more restrictive covenants than are what's covered in the landmarks ordinance. Now, the most subjective term used in this process is the term harmonious. And this term is used in other city ordinances, and I believe city legal is even working on maybe getting a clear definition of that. So I'd like to give a couple of examples of when the Landmarks Commission determined something was harmonious. Thanks, you're right on cue. All right. So some examples of past landmarks decision concerning properties being harmonious. On the left are the Stagecoach Trail Apartments on Century Avenue, just west of Pheasant Branch Creek. There were some historical requirements built into TIF District 5, and the Planning Commission sought input from the Landmarks Commission on those. And our input was the gabled roof and the brick color. The roof lines matched neighboring landmark buildings, and the brick color matched the stone color of 3 of the 4 landmark properties that were within 100 yards of the Stagecoach Apartments. Example is the Stam House across the street. I want to point out that Landmarks doesn't have any input on size, number of stories, setbacks, etc., but simply the aesthetics. The example on the right is Pheasant Branch School, currently the Veterans of Foreign Wars post on Century Avenue. They wanted to add a storage shed with a poured foundation and electricity behind the school, as well as a wheelchair accessible door and ramp facing the parking lot. So you see the shed match the siding color and roof line and pitch, and the handicap accessible ramp with, or ADA accessible ramp with that door. That's a case where functionality and accessibility outweighs pure aesthetics. Okay, there was no ADA accessible entrance to that building, and the owners wanted to add that. And so, yes, we're going to allow that because to make it accessible. So both these situations reflect examples of the Landmarks Commission finding certain buildings harmonious. One in terms of a new structure, neighboring historic buildings, and the other in terms of changes to the structure and additions on the parcel, like the storage shed. So I'll also give you an example of just something that might be considered non-harmonious. And the photo you're looking at here, this is the blacksmith shop on Branch Street near Century Avenue. The original gas station was constructed in 1978 next to it. The blacksmith shop, built in 1840, is a historic landmark building, and it sits on its own small parcel. The neighboring gas station is a separate parcel. And I don't know what the conversation was surrounding the construction of the gas station and so forth, but if we can just focus on the present, looking at those pictures, I think it's an example of a lost opportunity to make the 2 structures more harmonious. The doorway of the blacksmith shop opens into the driveway of the gas station. You can't view the blacksmith shop from any angle where it's not overwhelmed by the gas station. However, the owner of the gas station parcel is entitled to build within the zoning parameters of that parcel. They were not in a historic district. So I'll give you a hypothetical. If these 2 parcels were in a historic district together, the gas station owner could still build within the parameters of zoning, still build the gas station, but the Landmarks Commission could ask the gas station owner to consider some improvements to make it more harmonious with the blacksmith shop, such as building materials, the orientation of the gas station building, perhaps landscaping, a wall, fence, or small green space. So even if they were in a historic district together, the Landmarks Commission would not preclude the construction of the gas station. The commission's goal is to make the buildings more harmonious. Also, Landmarks Commission, if you're asking why is it still like this, the Landmarks Commission does not have authority to ask property owners to change something that's already been done. And by the way, Quick Trip did not build this. They bought it later, so you can still enjoy the maple glazed guilt-free if you don't like what you see, okay? They simply, they bought, it was another gas station owner that built. Okay, so that's kind of a background of the purpose of the Landmarks Commission, what a historic district is, some examples of the process that if you own a property within the historic district, you would need to go through, and it starts with, do I need a building permit? There's no extra building permit involved. All right, so why don't we go ahead and start with the public comment section?
Do you want to open the public?
Oh, okay. Daphne, or let's open the public comment session.
Okay, so I'll start with, I have three that did not wish to speak, so I'll just read those out
Okay.
right now. We have Carol Mackey, 1715 Aurora Street, supports and is available to answer questions. Chris Schultz Buchner supports but does not wish to speak at 7615 Terrace Avenue. And Troy Shabitsky, 7603 Terrace Avenue, opposes but does not wish to speak. There are additional comments written on the back though, so I can pass that around.
Cool.
And so for those that do wish to speak, first I have Thomas Newyar. So you're welcome to come to the podium. And then after Thomas will be Terrence Wall. And then after Terrence Wall will be Bill Butler.
Thank you. I was surprised when my daughters received notice that their properties at 7621 Terrace Avenue, the former Burns Body Shop, and 17 Terrace Avenue, the 1980s house east of Burns, had been included in the proposed historic district. Terrace Avenue west of Parmenter does not project a notably historic atmosphere. I've spent much of my life since 1970 in the restoration and adaptive reuse of historic buildings. These have covered every decade from the 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, all the way through the 1920s. They've included over 30 buildings in 5 Wisconsin cities, plus rural Sauk County and rural Iowa County. They've included a mineral water bottling house in downtown Waukesha along the Sioux Line tracks, a hospital in Wausau, a hotel in Chippewa Falls, 4 public schools, a fire station, 2 tobacco warehouses, and multiple downtown commercial buildings. I'm a 50% member of Restore Brisbane LLC, which is a limited liability company that I formed along with Samantha Crownover and Bruce Crownover, her husband. The Wisconsin Historical Society named our project, which is the restoration of the William Henry Brisbane House, just a lovely 3-story stone house, very narrow, in Arena, Wisconsin. They named it the winner of the 2023 Historic Restoration Award for projects of less than $1 million. In downtown Middleton, on the north side of Terrace Avenue, west of Parmenter, no historic building remains. On the south side, facing Terrace Avenue, are 6 houses deemed to be historic. They occur in the first 700 feet west of Parmenter. Yet the district continues for approximately 900 feet to reach the Little Red Schoolhouse. And that extension is utterly unnecessary since the schoolhouse is already a city landmark. There's no need to continue the district, and Burns Body Shop and the house east of it should be excluded from the district. In fact, their inclusion is my fundamental reason for opposing this. Thank you.
Next is Terrence Wall. After Terrence is Bill Butler, and then after Bill Butler will be Sarah Newyar.
Thank you. Boy, I used to work for Tom, and I can tell you, if there's one expert in historic buildings, it is Tom Newyar. I can tell you that for sure. I'm an adjacent property owner. I have no financial interest in any of the properties under the historic district. But I was hoping to see that side of the street cleaned up and redeveloped and improved over time in the better interests of greater downtown. I am a student of history. I love history. I love historic buildings. Everywhere I go, I look at historic buildings. I'd love to see truly historic buildings saved. But at best, I think in this district, you could call this eclectic. I mean, there's houses in there from the 80s. There's houses with vinyl siding. The homes don't meet the standard. They're significantly altered. Even the Queen Anne, which is beautiful, has two massive fire escapes and stairs coming down the outside. That was not part of the historic original structure. Many of them have been altered in their external materials or added onto, or the insides have been altered, and they just don't really meet the standard. What I'm worried about is this district will freeze these homes in time, in a window of time, and homeowners will lose property value. They will, I've seen this happen where they will not maintain the properties because they won't be able to get the money out of it by making improvements and maintaining the property. Homes cannot be demolished usually in these types of districts. So homeowners' rights will be infringed upon. Homeowners need to understand they will have to come before this committee and get approval for every little detail on the outside. I've seen homeowners have to spend significantly more money to sort of make it truly historic rather than buying a modern material. They have to buy a historic type of material. It's very expensive, such as a different type of roof tile. And so the costs can really skyrocket for maintaining homes. So the result is then homeowners just give up. They're not going to recover that value. And then the homes aren't going to be able to be torn down for redevelopment either. So that's a real disadvantage to having this as a district. What I would urge you to do is really focus on the homes that are truly historic. Save those, focus your energy and time on those. We recently, as a city, missed two opportunities. There was a beautiful brick home over on University Avenue that was torn down about as far as a few blocks down where the apartment building went up. That was a beautiful home. The building at the corner of Century and Branch, that was beautiful brick historic building that was torn down. So it's kind of funny that the commission here is doing this because you've missed a couple really good opportunities to save some really beautiful historic buildings. And now we're talking about saving, by your own admission, 40% of the buildings are not historic. So let's get those out of there. Let's not have those in the district, or don't do a district. But I would just urge you to focus on the truly historic buildings in the city. Don't create the district. And again, I'm very much in favor of preserving truly historic buildings, but many of these just don't fit the bill. So I appreciate your listening. Thank you.
Next up is Bill Butler, and if you could state your address as well, or the address of your property, that would be helpful. Bill Butler, then Sarah Newyar, and then after Sarah, we have Ed Brummel.
Okay, my name is Bill Butler. The property I have is 7431 Terrace Avenue. It is an open lot because I don't know who wrote in that was a old house. It was a rotted house. The foundation was totally shot. The front end was a 1980s garage that didn't work. There was a porch on the front that was just horrible. When I got it, I wanted to take it down and put up some really nice stuff. Physically, I've been a builder for over 47 years. And I've had to stop because of physical things. I've lived in Middleton for 60 years, and I'm very proud of it. But something like this that blankets a whole area makes no sense to me. To find really nice houses, to fix them up, which I've done dozens of them in Middleton, and I'm very proud of them, but this just doesn't make sense where you're throwing all kinds of crap together. And then you have to tell them what to do. It makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. I think Middleton is great. Like he was saying, there's a lot of stuff that's been taken down that shouldn't. I've taken down one house. That's it.
in Middleton, and it's because it was horrible. It was really bad. I would have had a house up by now, but I told you I couldn't. We're trying to sell it. We're looking for the right person. I'm not just going to give it to anybody, because I'm very proud of Middleton. The other thing that I guess I really don't understand is when you sit there and group a whole bunch of houses together into one aspect, which doesn't make sense when they don't fit. You should find the houses that match and work on those. Make those come out to where they're really nice and fit the area. There's a house to my left, nothing to say against it, but it's a very small house that should not even have been built, in my opinion. But there is some other nice ones around that are great, very nice, and I think that's what you have to work on. Don't just throw a blanket over everybody and say, this is what it is, because that's not right. Have the people that want their houses to be in some type of special area, have them come to you and say, this is what we want. This is what we want. I think that's great. I have no problems with that. The only problem I would have is if you came and told them what kind of shingles they could have, what color siding they can have, and not saying vinyl. I'm not really into siding, but the bottom line is you have the right to help Middleton stay like Middleton. I hope you do that instead of just blanketing a whole bunch of people. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Next is Sarah Nuyar. After Sarah is Ed Brummel, and after Ed Brummel will Jerry Ann Holzman.
Perfect. Good evening. I'm Sarah Nuyar, the owner of 7617 and 7621 Terrace Avenue. I ask that you reject the establishment of the Railroad Historic District and instead work with individual property owners who want to landmark their properties. A district should be a cohesive grouping of properties. Historic districts should be compact. When you run out of unique properties, the district should end. That means if there is to be a district, it should end at 7615 Terrace Avenue, the Edward Page House. As one of the largest property owners within the proposed district, outside of the public hearing notice, we were not contacted about the proposed change. The timing of the proposed change seems very interesting and a bit rushed, considering we've been working over the past 7 months on a redevelopment plan for a site that is within the district. Based on feedback from Plan Commission and Common Council, we have already invested additional resources to revise our proposals. We were surprised to receive the public hearing notice and also a bit shocked as we've kept up to date on initiatives coming out of landmark meetings. It was our understanding that the next step the commission was going to take was outlined, the commission was outlined to have a citywide survey conducted. And this citywide survey would really provide professional direction on the city landmarks and district. I ask that this proposal be rejected until that survey is complete. However, the creation of a district should not be informed by the findings, or should be informed by the findings of a professional third-party consultant. There is nothing historic about the two properties that we own on Terrace Avenue. One is from 1974, and it's an old car. Well, for a year, it was a Charlie Brown's auto sales shop, and then it was an auto body shop. The other is a 1982 split level house. I think some of our concerns are around the process. We are concerned with the sudden and rushed approach. Since the commission has only met 24 times since 2016, we are a little concerned that the lack of consistency in meeting could delay potential projects. This action was not brought up in the last meeting was April, and this agenda item was not part of the December 2023 meeting. Should the proposed changes be made to, I believe the proposed changes to the landmark ordinance should be finalized before a new proposed district is even proposed. The word harmonize seems very subjective. One of our issues is, what is something on the southwest side of Terrace supposed to harmonize with? Across the street is apartment buildings, but those are excluded from the proposed boundaries. Must it harmonize with the very scattered single-family homes along the east side of Terrace Avenue? This puts the proposed historic district directly in conflict with the existing zoning on much of southwest side of Terrace Avenue. With that, I urge the commission to reject the establishment of this district. Thank you.
Next, we have Ed Brummel, then Jerry Ann Holzman. After Jerry Ann is Brian Elliott.
Hi, Ed Brummel here. I'm a property manager in town. I live on Lakeview Boulevard. I own a property on South Avenue. It's one of the abutting properties. And basically, I don't understand why we're going through all the hassle to have another, set of bureaucracy things to go through to take care of a property, okay? There's an apartment building. Will you be able to see it through the trees? I got a neighbor that didn't like the back of the garage one time, and that was bad enough. Much less having to go in front of somebody and say, hey, I got a leak in the roof. I need a new roof on here, and I have to go and ask permission for that. I think you're encouraging people maybe not to pull permits if they're abutting to kind of get out of that. Is there a way to get out of that or ask to be not included in that because we're abutting property? And again, I agree with all the stuff I've heard so far. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that, and so anyhow, the abutting thing really bothers me. Has anybody looked into the city costs of the regulating this and how much this is going to actually cost to private people to wait 6 months if they're going to, go back and forth or anything like that, or actually ask what color the shingles would be, that kind of thing. But anyhow, I mean, and what would be the speed of the approval? I mean, would I be able to just, say, hey, I got a permit, again, to do a roof or, redo my siding or something like that? Would it be quick? How long does that take? I don't think that's been clear. I was never consulted or asked as a property owner about this, and all of a sudden, boom, we're included. And I was like, how does this go? So again, I hope you don't have problems, but down the road, do people have a problem with abutting properties? Possibly not, but it just, again, I don't see any need for this at all. And I think in the past, I've spoken to city council about the high density we're talking about in Middleton and stuff. And I don't think there's a lot of listening going on because a lot of things get approved that the people are totally against. So that's unfortunate, but it drives people with good money and good managers, good property owners, good builders out of Middleton. And that's a shame. So good luck with it.
Next, we have Jerry Ann Holzman, then Brian Elliott, and then Kyle Ladopoulos. Sorry if I messed up your name.
Hi, I'm Jerry Ann Holzman. My husband and I live at 7437 Terrace Avenue, one of the houses that is listed as a historic home. And we welcome the Railroad Historic District designation. Our house dates back to at least 1913 and was built by Carrie and William Durkop. Mr. Durkop was the founder of the Bank of Middleton. We treasure the history of our home, especially the surprises we found during our indoor remodeling projects. And we know that significant changes were made in the 1930s, including the closing off of a stairway and removing a front porch that we've since replaced. These were done when we believe the Tiedemans owned the house. The abstract of the property that we have dates back to 1839, when Middleton was first platted. It's quite a long history that we would love to explore. Creating the new historic district preserves the important Middleton history and allows future and current homeowners to explore their own paths. Requesting future development to blend into the neighborhood maintains its integrity. Middleton has a long history. Let's work together to keep it alive. Thank you to the Landmark Commission for taking this step forward to preserve our past.
We have Brian Elliott, Kyle Ladopoulos, and then Ann Johnson.
Hi, I'm Brian Elliott, a Middleton resident and co-owner of Nicola Townhomes, which is a 15-unit apartment building on 1729 North High Point Road. It's shown to be included in the Railroad District, excuse me. And property is developed in 1990 by my business partner, Nicholas Ladopoulos, who along with his family still owns the 15-unit apartment building with myself. He and his family lived in the house next door over at 1725 North High Point, which also is included in the district. I would like to read a letter on behalf of Nick, who couldn't be here. He's out of the country currently. As a developer of practically all the properties on the corner of North High Point and Terrace in Middleton, and the continuing owner of 1729 North High Point, I want to clarify the history of those buildings in context with the current attempt to put under review the designation area as a historic district, about which I received a letter from the city of Middleton. In 1988 and 89, I bought a 1.09 acre parcel on the outskirts of Middleton from the Mazamani Poultry and Egg Company. On the site was an old yellow brick structure, which was then being used as a rental. It had a plaque, notating its historical designation as the first Middleton high school. Nothing else was on the site. At approximately the same time, I was approached by the city of Madison about moving a house at North Fish Hatchery Avenue from the site, which was about to be raised for an office building. This building was neither particularly old nor significant architecturally. And at about the same time, I met James Elverson, who operated the Little Red Preschool up the street on North High Point, which was fast outgrowing its space. I made him an offer to go into a partnership with me and move the school to a new site. I preserved and remodeled the first Middleton High School to serve as a school once again. On the same site, I moved the red brick building from Fish Hatchery Road, massively remodeled it, and added extension with an apartment on the top floor. This created a small school campus, Little Red Preschool, ensuring the educational use of the historic structure and the economic viability of the campus. In 1990, I received permission from the city of Middleton to build and operate on the remainder of the parcel to place a 15-unit, one-bedroom apartment with moderate income housing financed by WIDA tax credits. That is the Nicola Townhomes that currently stands at 1729 North High Point. And then I bought from the owners of 1721 North High Point, who were Bill and Jeanette Godding, a small parcel of land abutting the reservoir site for the purpose of moving a house from the west side of Madison that the fire department planned to use for burn. I moved the house marked for burning onto the parcel and set it with a new foundation, creating an additional level, an exposed basement, and remodeling it and updating it extensively. I lived there for several years. So that's the house that's just next to the townhomes that's within the district itself. It's a white vinyl cladded, I guess Queen Anne may be the form of it, but not native to Middleton. It's from Madison. So we think this district to include properties with no Middleton historical significance is wrong. It would add undue cost and complexity to any exterior work that needs to be done in the future. And if you decided to move forward to redevelop Nicola Townhomes, that cost and complexity could become very difficult to overcome. We're wondering how a 5-story building that would be in place of Nicola Townhomes could jive with the Little Red Preschool. It's not in the height or bulk or the roof line. It would be difficult to do that, let alone seeking a common definition of harmonization. So we implore you to reconsider your map and please don't include the property in the proposed district. Thank you.
Next, we have Kyle Ladopoulos, Ann Johnson, and then next after Ann is Gordon Simley.
Keoladopoulos, Brian's partner, and I was first person to live in 1725 when my dad moved it from west of the Beltline before the fire department used it. We're both the house, which I have no connection to anymore, and the apartment building of which I'm a partner are included in the district. The house is marked 3 on the map. As Brian said, that house was extensively remodeled and updated, and a new floor was added, and a garage, and an office. I'm dubious about its historic value since it is not native to the site. My bigger concern is the apartment building that we own that's now 35 years old is going to be in need of, at minimum, some substantial renovation and work in the next 5 to 10 years. It is due for that. And I would be concerned about the additional burden and complexity of placing it under a historic district that I don't think it really belongs in. Building number 2 is already a landmark. I think that's covered. I don't think it's appropriate to add the apartment building. And to be perfectly honest, even the house at 1725 to this district. That house is completely obscured by the fact that it's set down on the hill behind another private home, which is not in the district, and by our apartment building. So it is not native to the site. It is not visible. And as far as I can tell, this district wraps around to our apartment building because of that house. Yeah, I just don't think those belong, and I'm not looking forward to the additional complication because I know work is going to be upcoming on that apartment building. And that's, there'll be plenty to do there with the plan commission and so forth, I'm sure. So I'm not looking forward to an extra overlay. Thanks.
Next, we have Ann Johnson, then Gordon Simley, and then Bill Connors.
Hello, my name is Ann Johnson, and I am very much in support of the Historic Railroad District. I live at 1720 Aurora Street in the Little White Church on the Hill, built in 1870. It is a point of pride to be a landmark within Middleton and included in their historic tours. This lovely little corner of the downtown is incredibly special and deserves to be preserved, not only for the historic significance of the beautiful and unique turn-of-the-century homes and structures that should be recognized, but also for the surrounding area to be protected and included in the significant part of Middleton's and subsequently the state's history. The boundaries laid out by the Landmark Commission strike me as thoughtful and appropriate. Architecture like this is living history that should be acknowledged and allowed to stand, to be seen and enjoyed for generations to come. It is woven into the fabric of downtown Middleton and acts as an important reminder of how far Middleton has come. To also include specific buildings that are within the area allows for cohesion, harmony, and intentional planning that gives oversight and a voice to those who care about their neighborhood and those who can designate preservation. These types of buildings don't come along very often and rarely stand the test of time, so given the unique opportunity to have an entire district of these historical structures would be a testament to Middleton's own beauty and a significant offering it can provide its residents and visitors. I ask you, why bother printing pictures of the town's history on the ground floor windows of the Middleton Center apartments if there are no historic homes reflected back at those images? Those historic structures were worth enough to be depicted as a selling point in this new development. Certainly, they're worth enough to be saved in reality and not just used for marketing purposes. With modernity surrounding this little pocket of buildings, I think now more than ever, it's important to recognize and preserve what makes Middleton special, acknowledge where it came from, uphold it in the present, and be able to better appreciate where it's going in the future. Thank you.
Next, we have Gordon Simley, then Bill Connors, and then Jacob Morrison.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here and setting up this meeting. Gordon Simley, 7701 Hillcrest Avenue. Born in Madison, so I've always lived in the area, and I moved to Middleton in 2006 and take great pride in living in this city. I am totally in support of the Railroad Historical District. Maybe not as it stand. I've seen and I've heard some really good points made tonight that maybe there's a little tweaking to be done. But having said that, I think the district in general, if you look at all of the red homes that have historical significance, I don't think it would be wise to just pick and choose. I think ultimately, if there's a little tweaking to be done, that's fine. But I think the majority of what you're seeing has been given a lot of study by the Landmarks Commission, and it deserves to go forward as it's set. Personally, I think this proposal is the last piece of the puzzle for historical Middleton. If you look at the downtown area, you've got Villa Dolce, the Opera House, the house that houses Traditions, which was torn down but rebuilt in the classic style that it was originally. Louisiana's, the train depot. Middleton has done an outstanding job blending the past with the future when you look at the Middleton Center and all the newer construction. It's tremendous. This particular street, though, it has tremendous historical significance. I don't know if anyone has ever seen this, but Middleton's early years, written by a local, I think should be given as a gift at the cost of the city to everyone that comes into the city government. Because it really, you cannot put that down. It is a fantastic read, but it really shows the tremendous historical impact of the Terrace Avenue and Aurora Street community. So I think we need to do that. And I think that's, like I say, that last piece of the puzzle to maintain the integrity of what we have in Middleton. If you go into Verona, and no picking on Verona or DeForest, wonderful communities, people love to live there, but they don't have the personality Middleton has. We've just maintained that personality. People come from all over to visit here just because of what Middleton has created here. So I think this goes hand in hand with that. Again, if you look at the red houses there, it shows a tremendous amount of history that needs to be preserved. So I thank you for your time.
Next, we have Bill Connors, then Jacob Morrison, and then Sarah Schuyer, 1703 Middleton Street.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm Bill Connors. I'm the Executive Director of Smart Growth Greater Madison, a nonprofit membership organization of real estate developers, architects, engineers, general contractors, commercial lenders, and other businesses involved in transforming ideas into constructed operating buildings. Smart Growth is the area's preeminent source of information about the impact of local government regulations on needed housing development. I want to stress that New Year Investments is not a member of Smart Growth, and I am not speaking on behalf of New Year Investments. However, I will refer to their proposed redevelopment project on the parcels at 7621 and 7617 Terrace Avenue. Furthermore, Smart Growth's Board of Directors has not yet taken a position on the proposed Railroad Historic District. However, I can say at this time that it has been Smart Growth's experience that Madison's local historic districts are used not only to protect historic buildings, but also to thwart beneficial redevelopment of non-historic sites that happen to be included in local historic districts. That same result would happen if this commission creates the Middleton Railroad Historic District with the current proposed boundaries. There are no historic structures on the parcels at 7621 and 7617 Terrace Avenue. It appears those parcels were included in the proposed historic district for the purpose of discouraging redevelopment of those parcels. The fact that the boundaries of the proposed historic district were drawn to include those parcels after New Year Investments proposed redeveloping them reinforces that appearance. Smart Growth urges the commission to delay deciding whether to create the Railroad Historic District to a future meeting so that you have time to consider other boundaries for the district. For example, Smart Growth urges the commission to consider making the parcel at 7615 Terrace Avenue the western boundary of the historic district. That would omit the New Year Investment redevelopment site, the only parcel that contains a non-landmarked structure, somewhat historic structure, and we just heard from somebody that it was moved there, or has been heavily modified, is the one to the west of it at the house at 1725 North High Point Road. And that house could be protected by other means, such as including it in a non-contiguous area of the historic district. The purposes of the Landmark Commission include stabilize and improve property values, protect and enhance the city's attractions, and strengthen the economy of the city. The commission will do the opposite of those purposes if it thwarts the redevelopment of the old body shop auto body repair shop at 7621 Terrace Avenue, including that parcel and the adjoining parcel in the proposed railroad historic district likely will thwart that beneficial redevelopment. And I'd be happy to answer questions, and I appreciate your consideration.
Next, we have Jacob Morrison, then Sarah Schaefer, and then Anna Speakerman.
Hi, thank you for the time to speak tonight. I'm Jacob Morrison. Just to give you some background on me, I'm an architect. I'm representing New Year Investments. I've worked on this project. I grew up in the New Orleans area in southern Louisiana. I went to school in Savannah, Georgia. I'm very familiar with historic districts. I currently sit on the Madison Landmarks Commission myself. A historic district should be compact. It should contain enough similar structures to create an atmosphere that the casual visitor would recognize as distinctly unique and combined. This is a very difficult task to accomplish on Terrace Avenue, where one side of the street is a group of 3-story and 5-story apartment buildings. The State Historic Preservation Officer and the National Park Service have guidelines for preserving historic structures for guiding landmarks commissions. Several of the existing homes we've already heard about have alterations that would not be approvable under a typical landmarks commission, such as enclosing porches, changing to modern windows, changing the siding to modern siding. Several of the houses, several of the Terrace Avenue houses were not motivated by house owners, were not motivated by historic preservation. A few were. Certainly the house 7509 Terrace Avenue is a beautiful house deserving to be landmarked and in a landmark district. But if there are not enough historic intact homes to create a truly intact district, the city should be more actively encouraging landmarking individual structures. Some points to make. I think respecting the offer of an outside professional third-party objective survey of Middleton's architectural body of existing structures would be respecting the process of creating a diligent and thorough understanding of the historic district. I think blanketing a somewhat gerrymandered looking district dilutes the authenticity and the credibility of landmark status. And finally, I think that landmarking Verns, an empty lot and a parking lot, is rather disingenuous to put into a landmarks district. Again, thank you for your commissioner's time and for your service, and good luck.
So next we have Sarah Schaefer, then Anna Speakerman, and then Liz Dingwall.
I'm Sarah Schaefer. I live at 1703 Middleton Street. I am speaking as the owner of a landmark house I've been there for about 40 years. And I'm also speaking as a past member of the Landmarks Commission during the 1990s, where I served for about 10 years. And I am ardent proponent of historic preservation, and yet I will speak both for and against this proposal. In favor of the district, a point that has not yet been made is that I think it's terrific to offer a vehicle to homeowners other than privately landmarking their own residence, because it is a very time-consuming and complicated process. It took me a long time to landmark my house, and I think it's terrific if some properties could be landmarked with people not having to go through that process. I also reject some of the calls that people have said this adds added cost and complexities. We've renovated our house in 2 major times, and at no time was it an egregious process to work with the commission to do that. And as all the charts showed, even when you do work with the commission, by the time the 6-month mark comes, the project is approved anyway. It's a process whereby some kind of quote unquote harmoniousness can be achieved, but property owners will prevail. So I'm sorry to hear all these comments about how terrifically difficult the process is. I wonder if there aren't some ways to have a historic district where not all property owners buy in, if that could be explored. I also question, as many of the speakers did, the boundaries of this district, which seem to extend too far to the west. Of course, there's nothing wrong with asking developers to be sensitive to offer designs that fit in with existing neighborhoods. Like many who've spoken, I question the timing of this. The property under redevelopment at the moment has been up for sale for 10 years, 6 years, depending on who you speak with. And so it's a little bit suspicious why this is coming up right now. And whether a landmark district is necessary to ask developers to be sensitive to existing neighborhoods, I'm not sure. I think my other comments have mostly been covered, but I do support slowing down the process, investigating, interviewing, not just sending out a notice to the people whose properties are in question, but actually speaking with each of them to see if they're interested in this process for themselves, what the barriers are to them, looking at this re-update of the Historic Properties Survey, and one other point. No, I guess it was just boundaries. So I think the fact that I can speak for and against the proposal suggests that it's a very complicated one that takes more time and I would urge slowing down the consideration of it.
Next, we have Anna Speakerman, then Liz Dingwall, and then Julie Waldron.
Hello, commissioners and neighbors. My name is Anna Speakerman. I am a member of the New Year Investments team. We are property owners on Terrace Avenue, and we are here to speak in opposition to the proposed Railroad Historic District. New Year Investments chose to be part of the downtown Middleton community, where people are passionate about their neighborhood. We are those people too. We love this neighborhood, and we want to add additional economic vibrancy to the area in alignment with plans that Middleton has put in place for more than 30 years. The process to draw and implement the proposed Railroad Historic District has been rushed. The district was introduced only 20 days ago, and the agenda was amended just 2 business days before this meeting to include a potential vote on the district boundaries. The boundaries of the proposed district, created in haste, include parcels that are outside the scope of historical significance that was proposed by this commission. At the April 10th meeting, the commission described the proposed map as a starting point for discussion, and multiple commissioners provided suggestions for alterations to that proposed map. However, the map that was mailed to neighbors and included in this agenda packet does not include those recommendations. This is a drawing of the boundary alterations that were discussed in the April 10th meeting. You will note that the alternate proposed historic district does not include the properties to the west of 7615 Terrace Avenue. That would be the house marked number 4 on the map. It also does not include the houses on the east side of Aurora Street or the south end of Aurora Street. The City of Middleton, along with the Middleton Area Historical Society, recently secured a sizable grant to update the historical survey. We support the city and the Historical Society's commitment to getting this right. We support the process to identify landmarks and districts using best practice historic preservation to protect the historic structures and neighborhoods in Middleton. We ask you to reject the proposed Railroad Historic District tonight and wait for the results of the upcoming historical survey. In the meantime, we wholeheartedly support our neighbors that would like to individually landmark their private properties. Thank you.
Next, we have Liz Dingwall, then Julie Waldron, and then Mary Bechtel.
Hello, my name is Liz Dingwell. I live at 1726 Aurora Street, so my house is actually included in the historic district or the proposed historic district. Clearly, there is a line in the sand between landlords and developers and the individuals who actually live in the historic district. Call Jack. Anyways, I can only speak on behalf of what I would like for my property. My husband and I would like our parcel of land to be included within the historic district. My house is not of any historic relevance. It was built in the 1980s. However, the land was utilized from the inception of Middleton. There's actually a picture right here, and you can see there are some, I don't know, outhouses where my house was. I don't know. In our woods, I have found old rusty horseshoes, barbed wire fences, and empty alcoholic containers. I'm sure not everyone can say this. Fast forward 120 years, I believe that if a train has the capability to wake up my 2-year-old son from a deep sleep at 10 p.m., our land should be included within the historic railway district, right? I think the question we are all asking here is what creates a historic district? Is it the land or is it the establishments on the land? I personally believe that there should be more acknowledgement of this history in the downtown Middleton area because not every city has this type of history. We should try to preserve it. I think it would be really neat to have an old steam engine train like somewhere down here where adults and kids could go play, have it something interactive. Like, let's acknowledge the history here. Like Verona doesn't have this history. We do. Anyways, I think it's just all of us support it who actually live here. We're not landlords. We're not developers. We want the historic district. So please, please listen. Thank you.
Next, we have Julie Waldron, then Mary Bechtel, and then Karen Mine.
Hello, my name is Julie Waldron. I live at 7704 Hillcrest Avenue. I support the proposed Railroad Historic District, which would be located just down the hill from my home. I appreciate the Landmarks Commission for this proposal, and I watched your previous meeting where you had a thoughtful discussion about the proposed boundaries, and I really appreciate you giving it such thoughtful consideration. I believe this historic district proposal is a welcome and overdue initiative for the Landmarks Commission to pursue. A number of residents living in and around the proposed district have been asking how to preserve this neighborhood. If we don't preserve districts such as these, I fear that we could end up with cookie cutter apartment buildings and risk erasing the unique character of our city's past. I'm particularly concerned about protecting the charming historic character of our downtown. I believe it would not add cost and complexity given what the chairman of the commission explained at the beginning of the meeting, contrary to some of the statements that have been made. I've noticed as on the proposed boundaries, some non-historic properties on Terrace Avenue and Aurora Street are included. I believe this is appropriate and can help assure that their appearance and development is harmonious with the historic structures. I believe this neighborhood, the properties that are nestled at the bottom of this wooded hillside form a unique enclave with a distinct neighborhood feel. And if we start picking and choosing houses to take out of it because they're not historic, we could end up with a real mismatch, similar to what the chairman showed about the blacksmith shop in the parking lot of a gas station. So if the commission were to remove some or all of the non-historic properties from the district, this could leave gaps in the district's fabric or encourage incompatible development, such as the blacksmith shop in the gas station parking lot. I also urge the commission, I know there's been some talk about the western boundary. I urge the commission to keep the First Middleton High School, now part of the Little Red Preschool, included in the Railroad Historic District, as well as the Railroad Depot, which is across the street. These structures are significant landmarks, and I believe they bring a cohesiveness to the district, showing the history of how residential homes, a schoolhouse, and a railroad depot all sprang up next to the railroad to support the growing community. I don't think they're too far removed from the rest of the properties, only a half block or so, and to have that landmark, the first high school, and have a district down the street but not have it be included doesn't make sense to me. So I thank you for listening.
Next, we have Mary Bechtel and then Karen Meinholz.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Bechtel. I am a new homeowner at 6912 North Avenue in Saks Woods in District 3. I'm here to speak in support of the proposed Railroad Historic District. I was a tour guide at the Frank Lloyd Wright Home and Studio in Oak Park for several years following college, and it taught me a lot about the architectural history of this country and the Midwest, because Wright was a Richland Center native, but also just thinking about how to connect a building with its natural environment as well. Something that hasn't been brought up at all that I think is relevant when it comes to historical preservation is integrating a natural environment with the buildings that are built. Quarry Park is a clear sight from standing on Terrace Avenue and from a lot of the different buildings that you see here. And as we think about preserving this space and creating a harmonious district, I do think that there should be a reflection of the organic structures in this area too. And that matters when you're talking about developing individual homes and creating a cohesive environment. I learned a lot from the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation, the organizational body that preserves Wright's buildings, and they really focus on that combination of cultural, built, and natural environments. So I just want to echo that as much as everyone loves downtown Middleton and, getting food at all of our local establishments, I think there's more to do when it comes to tourism and involving especially young families that love to come in downtown Middleton and making the proposed historic district somewhere where, they could see a part of a train, or there could be a community garden with a plaque that commemorates what's going on. I think this is an opportunity for marketing Middleton in a way that shows that we care about the history of this place and why Middleton even developed, which is because the railroad came through this area. Moreover, I definitely think that if parts of buildings or historically significant buildings are destroyed, there is no amount of money or apologies that can give it back. And right now, the Landmarks Commission and the city as a whole, I definitely think should think about how we can utilize this moment and everyone's opinions, listen to everybody, make the best decision that's based on this district, take our time in figuring that out and go from there. I also just want to take a moment to publicly reflect on my home buying experience and the comment that someone's property value might go down in Middleton. I just don't think is realistic. And I don't think, given what's happening here and what's being said as whether you can build something or not, that any homeowner or property owner or building owner is going to be in a sore place when it comes to reselling your property. Thank you.
And then last, we have Karen Meinholz.
Hello, my name is Karen Meinholz, and I have been a Middleton resident for over 50 some years. I'm not going to give exact 50 number. And my husband and I have owned Little Red Preschool at 7739 Terrace Avenue for just over 25 years. So I have 2 points to make. One being, we definitely want 7739 to be included in the historic district. Marv and I have spent and have huge passion, but spent a lot of time at preserving that building and making it the charm and the beauty, and been able to have it be education when it started out. And then, over the years in the 1900s, it was a family home. And then now to have it back to be education. So we serve children ages 2, and then we have an after-school program that goes up through age 12. And our curriculum and who we are, and Little Red, and being in downtown Middleton, and the importance of the history. And we are teaching our next generation, right? And so the importance of history in Middleton, and we take them for walks on a daily basis and pointing out the history of Middleton, and taking them to the depot, and taking them for gelato down to Villa Dolce. And, we're around and we're sharing and we're talking so that there's an investment of our youth in our community and preserving the history of Middleton. Because, This is the next generation coming up. It isn't necessarily always going to be just us. And so we teach the children, you're taking care of the property, you're taking care of the environment. And so definitely coming west, we definitely want to be included in that. And so if we're teaching this to 2-year-olds and young children, the importance of it, we can't then just get to a point and say, oh, well, there's some grown-ups and some developers and they have the big old bang monies in their pocket and they're going to be making decisions for your generation. And so we're doing all of this hard work of teaching them to appreciate and respect where they are, where they're going to school, where they're living. And then, yes, the controversy of Verns and the property behind and all of that. And yes, does Middleton need housing? Do they need people to have a place to live? Exactly. This is not the place. You do not look at a historic area and begin blasting into a hillside where we're teaching the children about the animals and the environment and preserving it. And then you're just going to have somebody come in and go, let's blast the living daylights out of this hill so that we can make money, because if we made it lower, or if we made it not as economical, or if we made it for lower income, that doesn't fill our pocket. Those were the words that were said to us. It's not financially, economically a benefit to the developer. So I'm going to wrap up. Anyways, so, right? If you blast into that, look at all of the historic landmarks we already have. What's going to happen? Where are we going to take 200 children while they blast into this hillside so that they can put their little fortress that they're going to paint a green roof on so that hilltop housing homeowners can look at a green roof so it blends in with some of the trees that are left? So no, the district needs to go down to the west. We need to be included in this. This is our generation that is now going to be continuing to take care of the history of Middleton as well as the environment. Thank you.
If anyone else would like to speak, now is your time. Please state your name and your address when you come up. If not, we did receive 3 statements that came in after our 1 p.m. deadline. One was from Christopher Laurent, one from Dennis Midthun, and then one from the Middleton Chamber of Commerce. And then on top of that, we did receive, I believe, 10 statements from letters and emails that did come in on time, and so those are included in your packets.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing portion. Yeah, last chance. Okay. Thank you. All right, so that concludes the public hearing portion. And at this time, now the commission will discuss. I'll present a couple of questions here just to get the conversation started. And the first one is not considering boundaries, but is a historic district desirable and justified in this area?
Are you asking Jeffrey to speak?
I'm looking, yeah, I know, now you want to be hidden. I'm looking over it.
I'm happy to start it
yeah,
off.
okay, go
I
ahead.
think we absolutely have a collection of historic buildings that date back to some of the earliest time of settlement here in Middleton. And I think it's important as the Landmarks Commission to preserve our history, as many people spoke about. You want to try to preserve that, and a historic district is definitely going to lend itself towards that. As I stated in the earlier portion, I don't know if you want me to get into that, John, but
What's that?
about the district boundaries.
Well, we're gonna.
We can talk about that later.
But whether or not, yeah, so, no, we're gonna discuss it.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as is a historic district desirable and justified? Any comments, Jeff, or?
Did you want to? So with due respect to my friend Bill and Karen and Marv, who I recognize as being people that have been here longer than me, I'm not sure I really grasp it as a historic district. I love and respect, as a board member of the Historical Society, the individual properties that are in this district. And I believe that we should do all due diligence to preserve those properties. For the record, Daphne, could you pull up the IM 34732 from the State Historical Society? I want to show you an aerial view of this neighborhood from 1928. So we can kind of look at the historical properties that have been there. And then we'll kind of go through time to like the 80s. People, when they have been here for not very long, don't remember what that district used to be. Mr. Wall sent us a letter that said, in effect, we're protecting an area that used to be liveries, slaughterhouses, later on auto dealerships, an egg factory, and the Valencia pet milk, which is like very important to us because it has been repurposed, but in no way looks like what it looked like 50 years ago. So if you look at the lower portion, you can see Valencia there, and then you can kind of follow the railroad tracks. There's nothing in the area in 1928 where current apartment buildings sit. And you can see, like, if you can track where Parmenter Street is, most of that was infilled later with light manufacturing. So I'm not sure what we're preserving if we're looking even at 1928. We can go back. So one of the photos that was shown is a very famous Andreas Dahl photo of the people sitting on the railroad tracks with like the Kingsley home, which we all recognize as being very significant to the area, but also, as has been remarked, has been significantly altered. Go back to 27-210. This one? Okay, this is the other side of that photo that is showing the homes along Terrace. This is the area that is on the other side of that we're talking about preserving right now. At the same time as the historic photo, this is what we had.
I'm sorry, can you help orient? I'm really not
Sure.
tracking on this
So the
photo.
photo that we have in our packet, this one, if you
Yeah.
turn the camera around, that's the other view of it.
So this is looking
This
the
is
opposite
looking
direction. This is
west to
looking,
east,
huh?
west to east, across what we're talking about. This kind of muddy road here is Terrace. So here, can you orient from this?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, it's the same photographer. It's the same district. It's just a different photo. It's a different
And which, from
perspective.
that vantage point, that's right about where the depot is. Which
No.
way?
No, this would be the west end of pretty much what
No,
we want to call the historic district.
the photo that you just showed me.
So this is the Kingsley house in the photo. Here.
Right.
So this is, you can't see the Kingsley house because you're up the street from it. So then, if you would pull up 68322. Okay, so this is if we were going to be honest, in my opinion, Vern's Auto Body.
Sorry. Can you give me like reference an address that you're looking at right now?
Sure.
Because I'm not, or not this one, the previous photo where you have the dirt
So
road.
the previous one is backing up against Terrace and then looking out instead of looking toward Terrace.
Looking north?
Looking north.
Okay, so this is with your back against Terrace looking north.
Correct.
So
North
you're
and to the
looking
east.
north to east?
No, looking to the north and to the east.
Okay.
I could interject that you're sitting about where Burns is, looking towards the depot.
Right.
Looking to the northeast from about where Burns bought shop.
And to be fair, we aren't including this in the historic district, but this is what was there at the time.
Okay, so this is not land that's in the historic district now that you're showing us
It is, well, okay, so where the fence is,
Yeah.
yes. But what we're looking out on, so what I'm trying to address is the cohesiveness of a historic district that doesn't include the other side of the street and what used to be there up until pretty much the 1990s, which is the next photo, 68322. So the building the white building here is the corner of Aurora and Elmwood, and it used to be Middleton Co-op. To the east of that is the cement building with kind of the Quonset hut shape.
Okay, so this is Aurora and Elmwood.
Right, and so what I'm telling you is that we have a downtown Middleton that people have praised and appreciated, but don't particularly remember that this is what we've come from to where we are now.
Right, okay, so I think, if I'm hearing correctly, the point you're making is the area north of Terrace Avenue up to University was the industrial center
Very.
of Middleton,
Right,
correct?
right.
Okay, where Middleton Center is now. It used to be Old Middleton Center, now Middleton Center.
Right.
So largely all that was the industrial part.
Yes.
Okay.
It contained Middleton Co-op.
Okay, so
Middleton
north of
Motors,
Terrace
Ford
Avenue
Village.
up to University is what you're talking about?
Yes,
Okay,
the other side of the street.
yes, not, but
Not the side of the street, because we are literally talking about making a historical district on one side of a street.
yes, correct.
So I'm presenting what was on the
On the
other side.
north side. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So those are the things that were there. This photo is from 1981. And then if you go to 73715, this is Middleton Ford Village, as most of us remember it from back in the day. And you can see, I mean, they did a wonderful job converting it. But again, that's not going to be something that we can, like make a historic district, because this is what we had in the 70s.
Well, okay. But this isn't, just to be clear, this is not in the proposed historic district.
It is adjacent to,
It's across.
right,
You're talking about everything north of
correct.
Terrace.
Correct. So what I'm saying is if we're going to look at what's an appropriate historic district, I feel like it should be one that has always been a historic district. And I agree with the people who have spoken and said, yes, let's absolutely protect the individual properties, but I don't see a cohesive historic district as you walk from west to east along the proposed boundaries of the district.
Okay,
That's all.
I think I'm tracking.
Okay, thank you.
I guess it depends what side of the street you're on.
Well, Again, my
If you're on the north
argument is
side,
that
no,
it
it's
should
on south
be,
side.
a district
Okay.
should be a street.
Should, well,
and not half a street.
I mean, and you brought up the point, a historic district should be it should always be a historic district. And certainly if I can, just, the argument, well, this has never been a historic district, or this is rushed. Well, we're using data from a survey in 1996 that was done by a third party. So we've had this data for a while. But when, if I didn't want to live in a historic district, I want to, build a house here. Well, according to that reasoning, 1858 would have been the time to establish this as a historic district, because that's the earliest house. Any house that came after that, the person would say, well, I didn't build an historic district. I didn't want to buy in that. So I certainly hear what you're saying. Okay, now I get it. You're talking about across and, Middleton Center, which my personal opinion has done a great job making it look historic, but a new building that kind of looks old, is nice, but it's not the old building. So, okay, I track what you're saying now as far as the old industrial area downtown. And I don't know that we would be talking about making a historical car dealership, but, okay, super, thank you. Yeah, and that's educational. We always learn something at Landmarks. Yeah, that was the industrial center of Middleton, was where kind of Middleton Center is now, before the industrial park existed. A lot of stuff downtown. Super. Okay, Jeff, you got anything?
I think I'm in agreement with my peer on the commission. I agree that we need to preserve several properties. but I just don't know if we have, I just can't grasp if we have enough to approve a historical district. I heard the mention of a 1996 data. I believe it came up about a citywide survey that was supposed to have been done. I think I was on the commission. We approved the funding for the citywide survey. I just don't see enough information here. I see enough information to say, okay, what's on this map? Let's preserve, these properties. But when we get down to a historical district, I just don't see enough. And I was even researching about surveying, and it's the definition is to look carefully and thoroughly at especially at something or someone, especially so as to appraise and be accurate in the outcome of a survey. And I just don't see, with the information that I got here and what I heard on tonight, I just don't see that there's enough information to say, hey, let's move forward with a historical district. Yes, there's information that there are historical properties, looking from the data. Yes, there's information to let's preserve these properties. But far as a historical district, I would prefer, and I think on the last call I said, I would prefer to wait to the survey, the survey that we funded to go forth, the citywide survey, to come back, and then let's move forward.
Sandy?
I agree that we need to have a railroad historic district, but I disagree with the boundaries we show on this map. I think we should include the ones that are historic. And how we do that will be determined, I think, in the future. But I think it's very important. I've talked with many of these people that live in these houses here, and I live in a historic house called the Henry Youngblood House. It was built in 1905. And I believe that we should have a railroad historic district. It's not unusual for organizations, or I should say, cities to revolve around the railroad at all. So I agree, should be a district.
Yeah. Good. And you're right, we don't have to make a decision tonight. I hear this a comment rushed a certain, by some of the speakers tonight. And I guess my question would be, when this is the first step, so is to have a public hearing. And so we're taking the first step, and I don't know how you avoid, you either take the first step or you don't. I'm not sure how you avoid taking the first step, and then it's all of a sudden it's rushed. But we wanted to get public input before we make any decision on this. Me personally, I'm of the opinion that I think a historic district with this grouping of buildings is justified. The boundaries that we included initially were to make sure that everybody that could potentially be impacted was notified. And so, wow, it's all over. Well, we don't want to leave somebody out and then, hey, I didn't know this was going on. So yeah, I think the boundaries are open for discussion. We certainly got a lot of viewpoints from specific, from folks concerned about specific properties. We certainly got some valuable input from residents who live along the street. So it's a lot to digest. I believe I can read most of my writing on my notes, but this has been very beneficial to hear the different viewpoints. At this point, I don't know that we're ready to vote on a boundary. But I think if we have at least 3 of the 5 commissioners that are here think that we need to continue to consider a railroad historic district, then I would propose we take the public input. We don't need to rush to a decision, and walk the neighborhood again and look at the line of sights. There's a lot of good discussion about adjacent properties. And why is it just why isn't it just the historic building and why does a non-historic adjacent property belong? Well, it's about that harmony, and I understand property owners' concerns. What does that mean? So I think, it could come down, there's some slope on that. It comes down to, line of sight, using your imagination, what would go in here that would negatively affect this potential historic home? And, and is that a concern or not? I think maybe some of the adjoining properties don't, and some do. But I think we should take a look at that each individually. Okay. I've talked now like 5 minutes.
With respect
Yeah.
to Alder Jackson's comments, I would like you to consider a motion to table the drawing of the historic district until after the survey has been conducted.
Okay, so just for clarification, the survey you're talking about, which is funded and is due to start when?
So we should be starting sometime this summer. However, I mean, it takes a long time for them to, they literally research every single property
It's,
in
right,
the city. So it could take, around a year or so.
a year to 18 months, I believe is what the 96 one.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're talking about 2025.
Correct. Because I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse in drawing a district before
Oh.
we've got the information in hand.
Have you had the opportunity to read through the 1996 survey?
I've
Detail.
looked at it, yes. Yep.
Okay, have you, Jeff?
Yes, I'm proud to do it.
Okay, because I think there is a lot of information. We didn't print it out, but there is a lot of information about the properties, who built the properties, where the builders came from. I'm not sure. I think an update, the newer survey is going to focus on, I don't know that they're going to find out much more on these particular properties. I think there's another district that's outlined in that survey, homes built in 1950 over kind of on the east side of Park Street, that they talked about having a cohesive certain architectural style. So I'm not sure how much more we're going to learn.
Well, I can answer
Delaying.
that. Specifically, we are talking about creating a historic district right now. But I would like to see the survey come in so that we can, as a city, plan on several historic districts and make sure that we have a set of rules for how those are conducted and not just willy-nilly decide that we want to put one here. If time is not of the essence, then let's wait until next year and create however many historic districts we need to come out of it. One of the things that I do recall from the 96 survey was the number of homes that have been altered significantly so as to not be of historic significance anymore. And as several people have mentioned, that's the case with many of these homes, as lovely as they might be right now on Terrace Avenue.
I mean, like Christy said, they're evaluating the whole city.
Mhm.
So they are gonna take a fresh look with fresh eyes to determine where those historic districts are. They're gonna look at the 96 survey, and that's gonna help guide them as a part of the research process in delineating where the new historic districts, potential historic districts may be located, and individual properties as well. So they're looking at all the information when they're looking at it.
And to clarify, that original 96 survey was only the original boundaries of the city of Middleton, which extends from essentially Parmenter over to Park Street and then bounded by what was Whittlesey, University Avenue, and then the southern district, southern boundary was Hubbard, or was it Terrace?
Can't recall off the top of my head. And they also missed things in that survey. So
Right,
it's.
and things have been torn down.
Yes, and new things have been constructed, or they were constructed back then, but weren't evaluated because they were under 50 years of age. So we're just gonna get a lot more information in general. You can have a historic district of ranch houses, right? So.
Well, I hope we do, honestly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so Alder Schaefer would like to remind the commission that a motion was made
Thanks.
by
Okay.
Commissioner
And you need to
Warner.
Then go for a second. You don't just sit
Okay.
there and talk about whether the motion.
All right, thanks. You have a great yard, by the way. Okay, so you made a motion to table the historic district until after the survey is done, which we estimate could be summer 2025 to the end of 2025. Okay. Discussion, any other discussion on tabling?
You need to ask for a second.
Oh, is there a second? I'm sorry. Is there a
This
second?
is Jackson. I'll second.
Okay. Thanks, Stephanie. All right. Other discussion?
I don't think we should table it until then. I think it's something that's important enough to separate from that particular survey. I know it will be significant, but I think this is important.
I think I agree with you. I think it is important to maintain the historic buildings that we have, and we don't want to lose them in the next year. But we've also waited since 1996 to finally follow through with this. So I could go either way. I'm fine with what the consultant's going to come up with is so much more than what we can offer right now.
Okay. I'm of the opinion, I think it's too early to table this idea for historic district just completely for a year to 18 months, actually longer than it'd be 2 years from now. I think we got, this is the first step. I'm of the mind that I think it's too early to make a decision, kind of. And I also think it's too early to say we're not going to do anything. I think we need to take the public input and let's again walk the neighborhood. Let's consider what's been voiced. Let's look at the line of sights, really look at the state of the current homes and compare that with dig in a little bit on the 96 survey. Like I said, there's a lot of good information. And then at our next meeting, bring this up again as a continued discussion on is it justified?
Tabling doesn't mean that we're opposed to discussing it. It means that we're opposed to taking action on it until we have professionals weigh in. What you just described was the very definition of tabling.
Yeah, I disagree with tabling it until the survey is done at the end of sometime in 2025. Which is the motion you made, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So I disagree with
The
that.
district would not happen prior to prior to the completion of the survey.
Okay. Yeah, so I disagree with saying we will not make a decision until after the survey is done that we don't even have dates for yet. Do we have a provider selected yet or
We have the contract with the Wisconsin Historical Society. I believe we're sending the signed contract back this week.
Okay.
And then after that is when we select the person who will be doing.
Okay, so, and then
So we have
only
not
then do we
selected-
start taking bids to
Right.
do it.
Right.
So we're very early in this process, and that's what concerns me is this could go on for
Years.
quite a while. And in my opinion, I think we have a lot of good information. We've gotten a lot of good feedback. But I don't feel we need to, at this point, early point, saying we're not going to consider this until 2 years from now. Any other discussion on the motion that you made? Okay, so we'll call the question then, and all those in favor of tabling the historic district until after the survey, future survey, I'll just call it future survey is done. All those in favor of tabling it until the future survey is complete, say aye.
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 Okay. All right. And I'm opposed.
Opposed.
Sandy opposed.
Is Thomas online?
Tom?
Thomas online?
No.
No, he is unable to make it.
Okay. All right,
I
so,
believe that motion passed
Mhm.
3-2.
okay. All right. Next up is, we've already talked to Elizabeth and Sandy, who have been working on the landmark ordinance. And just because we just got the drafts, I let them know I'd like to wait until next meeting to discuss that. Do
So,
we need to make a motion for that or no?
Yes, if you could make a motion to defer to the
To
next
defer it until the
meeting,
next meeting?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Next meeting next month?
Yeah,
Yes,
it'd be
in
next
the
month,
May,
yeah.
the May meeting.
Someone want to make a motion to defer? You guys worked on it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to defer then.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of deferring, say aye.
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 Okay, aye. Unanimous. Okay. So we'll defer that to next time. Thank you for doing that, by the way. I just, between work, I looked and I'm like, oh, I got to read through this and I just haven't had.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is consideration. Okay, current landmark signage. Okay, so signage, and this was added to the agenda at the request of Emily Kuhn. So would you like to?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the commission's time. And I'm glad that you guys are taking this up. When I did doors for multiple runs for city council, the reason I became very familiar with landmarks is that the mounds is in my former district, in District 4. And it's a beautiful thing. I make all of my volunteers go and look at it. Thanks. The mound is so beautiful, especially in winter when the snow is there. And you can see the trees because there's no coverage. So I always have my interns take pictures at that landmark. And after a recent plan commission, we had the property owner come and talk to us, and Daphne was there, I believe. And he said that the landmark stone is not where he would want it on his property. He wants it, I think, 8 feet to the right. It is an unusual place, I will tell you, because you kind of are looking at, it's a snake formation. So you're looking at it from the side. So I think he wants it more head on. He said that the sign had been changed in the past few years, which someone had told me about well after it had happened. No big deal, not saying we need to change things, but hey, if you change a sign, let an alder know. They love a good ribbon cutting ceremony, just like the next guy. But he said that there was an error on it. And so Daphne, thank you. I appreciate as it gets quieter that you open the door. Do we have an email from him with the comments? Do you remember?
I do have, I've been emailing with Rob Nuri. He's the he's part with the Wisconsin Archaeological Society. I don't
And
think I
he's the
have it.
property owner?
Yes.
Can you tell
Yes.
us which property you're referring to?
The mound
This is
on
Pine
Mound
Ave-
Street.
Pine Mound. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
I apologize. We have multiple ones. The other one was when I was on Elmwood, which is the Whittlesey? I have the Whittlesey.
Whittlesey House.
And when I was doing doors, I will say it's a very difficult location to find the landmark. Have you guys been to see it?
Is this the Indian mound?
That was the first one, yes.
Okay.
The second one is on Elmwood. I think it's Mayflower and Elmwood. And it's probably in 1850s. It's a beautiful white house. And what you have to do is
obviously park on the street. But if you want to read the landmark, you have to go up their personal driveway, past 2 cars, garage, and literally walk up to their house, which in downtown Middleton, you can see them from the sidewalk. There, you can read a lot of them from the sidewalk. But this one, it doesn't face the street. So when I first did doors, I was literally looking in their dining room, not purposely, but they don't have curtains. And they said, "What are you doing out there?" It's very uncomfortable. I said, "Well, you have a sign and I'm running for office. It looks interesting." So they came to the door and they were talking to me and they said that there was some untruths on that landmark. And I believe it's that landmark now. I knocked 2,000 doors, so maybe it was a different landmark, but it was concerning because here I have really, I've seen all the landmarks in downtown and other locations, and I don't question the value or if there's errors on every one of them. However, if there's 2 that I've knocked and we have issues with, it makes me wonder, what are we doing throughout the city to ensure that they are correct and that they're in a proper location, both for that property owner, but then also so people like me interested in landmarks don't walk up to someone's dining room area. So thank you for listening to my concerns.
No, that's a good point. And I think first, the location. So some of the landmarks have those plaques and they've been on the homes. And we've asked property owners about putting a stone out in the parkway and moving those signs, taking them off the house. And the ones that are still on the house, when we went through and we did the signs, was that like 2 years ago? So we updated almost all the signs, well, the ones we could afford. And there were like at the mound, it stated something about no remains are buried in mounds or something like that, which we know is, and that's what the Archaeological Society says. So that one was changed. And they talked about moving the stone because they wanted the rock that it was on because they wanted to do something. But as far as removing the sign from the house, the 2 I can think of, they're on Elmwood, which is on the front of the house, and there's also one on Park Lawn. It's kind of a yellow tiled house that they wanted it on the house. Now, the landmarks ordinance says it should be readable to people. People should be able to read it. So my question to you, not as just a concerned citizen, but as the mayor, do we defer to the homeowner's preference of keeping, what is your view? Do we defer to the homeowner's preference of keeping the sign on their house, or do we say, no, we're taking it off and putting it on the street?
Per my discussion of March of 2024, they did not want it on the house. So I'm unclear as to why maybe one spouse said yes.
Okay. What home is this you're talking about? Because
I believe it was the Whittlesey house, which I do recall that house specifically. They wanted it like almost like we talked about where it's like on the grass, like almost like a headstone kind of situation.
I'm open-minded to what it looks like. I'm just saying, I want to make sure that we are doing history right across the city. I appreciate everything that you guys do. And if you guys have done this thorough survey, I am unaware of what you did 2 years ago, but I'm so glad to hear this. Because when I go and do doors, I want to make sure that things are accurate and authentic, because when I had that interaction, I didn't know what to say. So as long as we are supporting those homeowners, and if they want it moved and it's a different step, I'm okay with that. But I did go up today just to make sure it was still there and to see what it said. And I could hear them saying, "What is she doing up there?"
What's you tell me where's the addresses?
I think it's the one right behind City Hall.
No, it's
That's the Wolf House over
That's the
there.
Wolf
Dan
House.
Barker lives there.
Good half mile down Elmwood.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a large
Towards
brick.
the Madison. Yeah, and up the hill. It's a beautiful house.
If you could give make sure we got the right one.
Yeah, get the address.
Can I ask for clarification on how we handle this in our budget? Because We
Well, that's a
haven't
good point.
gone through a
So we're,
budgeting
yeah,
process.
so
Yeah.
were
He
there
has the
houses
budget.
before that wanted their signage changed and they never were implemented?
No. Yes, we couldn't update all the sign, but I will point out something, and I want the mayor to be able to hear it just because she's asking a question. So back in 1974, the landmarks budget was $750. Today, our budget is $350. So I don't think inflation has gone down. But if we do want to, and we did an upgrade of the signs as much as we got from the city that we could afford. But money is tight in trying to get the funds to upgrade these signs. And it was a battle beforehand. And our alder fought at the time, who was on the committee, fought a good battle to get us the money.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
I think that's a valid request, particularly for those two. However, and just turn it around, I think. Flip the other way.
Okay.
I think it is this one. The
No.
trees have been since removed.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's 6517 Elmwood Avenue.
Yeah, it's a
That's-
old, stone house, has a detached garage.
Go to tourism. The
They-
tourism
they do
site has a
have
pretty one.
Yes.
As to the idea of budget, what I would say is provide a cost estimate for those two locations, and likely there's 2 or 3 more that you've been wanting to do. And if you can provide that in the next 3 weeks, not you personally, but as a group, or working with city staff, and I will personally ask city council to consider it. We have a little bit of a surplus right now, and I'm looking at Alder Jackson because we did well with our investments, and this might be a well-timed request. Obviously not, maybe not $10,000, but I'm guessing that a sign or a new rock would be a few hundred, and I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I'm also concerned about the other mound signage.
That's what I was
And
getting
that's
ready.
something that our commission has taken keen interest on, and working with the Ho-Chunk and making sure that the signage is written appropriately, which is very important. We all agreed. We're very, we are very much for new signage and working with them and getting that language. But is that budget also taken out of the commissions? Or is that a citywide budget? Is that coming somewhere else?
I think that's also a very good question. What I would ask you all to think about is the number of signs that will be needed, because obviously they will be new, not replacement. And do a cost estimate of, say, one sign. Let's say it's $300 to build. It might be way off, so my apologies. And my understanding is we have maybe 30 mounds. Is that reasonable?
I think it's also going to be dependent on the Ho-Chunk, because they're going to articulate which mounds they want signage for. And
Acknowledged.
again, the size of the signage will depend on which mounds they want to speak for, right? So these are all great questions.
Yeah.
And we've been in communication to try to get that information multiple occasions. So we just need that information from the Ho-Chunk and the Archaeological Society in order to move forward in that. And then at that point, we can get a cost estimate on signage. But at this time, we can't really roll out a figure. I don't feel comfortable with that.
What I would have you consider is ask the parks, or have your staff member ask parks how much a new sign costs for a park. Obviously, that's much larger than what you'd have, or maybe that is about the size that you want. If it's a very large mound, I'm not sure. Likely it's a smaller sign, but they probably get signs replaced frequently, so they would know if it's more 100 or more, 1,000. And what I would suggest is that ask for a budget line for this upcoming budget year in 2025. Let's just start with 10 signs, because if we're not sure, and what they are going to decide and what size they want,
if the dollar amount is marked in your budget, and let's say it's 10 signs, $300, that's $30,000, let's say. And let's, is it $3,000? Let's, thanks, the math, they're teaching the math. All right, it's late. My apologies. So if you ask for $3,000 and maybe bump it up a little, and then if you get fully funded for that, then you can say to the Ho Chunk Nation, what's your 10 priorities? If, however, we don't get that information in time, I have it rolled over for the next year or add more. And then if we don't have enough money, maybe they only fund 5. And still, we're at least moving forward. So now that my apologies, Chair, you probably would have given the same guidance, but I would be aggressive in that request. Thank you so much, because preserving our history is so fundamental, and I want children like the Little Red Schoolhouse was talking about taking the kids for walks. That's what I envision with this kind of thing, is that we're going to teach the children to not go on the mounds, but to know that they're there and to celebrate our history and our long-term presence here. When I read about the Black Hawk War, I was like, that was literally right here. Like, I've studied the Black Hawk War, but to know that they were, in the Conservancy, it's amazing. We should be celebrating it. So please be aggressive in your budget.
Okay, so our budget is $350 a year, which basically gets Daphne to maybe attend a conference remotely to be able to update stuff.
And we need more people to attend
So,
some conferences.
Right. So typically it's over a year out. And I think as far as the signage, I don't know, were you doing it or was Abby doing it? Last time we updated the sign, was that you, Daphne? Okay. I know everybody went through the signs and we updated, I think a majority of them, the ones we could afford. And it would be helpful maybe for the next meeting. And you've been super, by the way, putting this together. I just want to say that publicly. But if you could put together maybe what we spent and what out of those signs, because I know we came up with new verbiage for them all, but we couldn't afford to change them all. And so we did the ones that were kind of more egregious, that had family names of who was living there at the time when the sign was put up in 1983 and things like that. The mound on Mound Drive that had the no remains, that's one we changed. But certainly that would be helpful next meeting, get an idea of the cost and the number of signs that we replaced. And then if there are additional ones, then we have a starting point on where it's going to be. Although we just did the signage, we did not do any new mounts or anything.
I'd also be curious, when we're talking about signage and mounds, they're not all landmarks, just the high mound is. So can that come out of Parks and Rec budget and not ours? Because we've got a gigantic conservancy that's filled with them.
Again, I would just maybe do a 1-year ask on your budget. So instead of, I like your idea, but instead just say, a citywide, one-time budget, or maybe it's a 2 or 3 year rollout, because it might be a very large project. And I will ask council, who, when Alder Jackson has talked about it, they seem very supportive. Usually things are contentious or we don't know if we have money, but when he's spoken on this, we are just so excited. So I think there is support.
And just piggybacking off of what Madam Mayor said, they're excited. They're just waiting for the information and the data from us.
Okay.
That's what they were waiting for. They were waiting for the budget. What do we need to do? What the wordage is. I've been advocating at every council meeting, and they're asking me now, where you guys at on the mounds? So they're ready for us to put something before them. So the council is excited.
It could be they want a ribbon cutting ceremony. We all like a good get out there and celebrate some good stuff. So
I'm sorry, the Ho Chunk has come back to us and said they're waiting on us for a cost estimate.
Council is waiting for
And we are
from
waiting on the
Ho
Ho
Chunk,
Chunk. So
yeah.
we're in a very circular
Yeah.
pattern.
Jeff-
We just
Jeff has
need-
got
we
him
just
on
need
the
to get
phone.
the information from the whole chunk.
Right, yeah.
Can I just ask for clarification? Because I feel like it's a little confusing, even maybe thinking of it from a design point of view, but the signage for mounds, I think, should be very different from the signage for homes. And I would hope moving forward that we would keep those two things separately, because we have a definite issue of problems. So I'm not really even certain I understand, do we want to fix the signs right now, or do we want to, again, wait until our survey is done, when we're going to be asking a lot of homeowners whether or not they want their home to be depicted as a historical landmark in Middleton?
That's a very fair point. And I do agree with you on the mounds. So if especially if that's the one you want to pause on, because maybe we move away from the rock concept, because I think he even wants to put his own sign up. So I think that's something we should, just as long as we're coherent as to whatever we are doing, I will totally support that. And if you want to pause on fixing those other landmark signage, I'm open to that. But if there's a couple that do need updating, I'm, like say if it's under 5 and you need a little more budget line for that, I'm open to that.
Yeah, okay.
I make a motion to discuss that. I'm in support of Christie in terms of tabling, reaching out to the homeowners after the survey. So it'll be about, 4 years since the signs have, the homeowners have been visited to discuss how they feel about signs. I don't know if we want to make it a policy every 5 years we check in and make sure the new homeowners are happy. And if that's a good policy just to kind of set, and that'll be after the survey, like you said, I think that's great.
I think we need to move ahead with estimating a cost though, because
Yeah, I just want to focus on the mound signs now.
okay,
Right.
that's good, but at least we need just a starting point on cost, because even if we wait for the survey, it'd be great if we already have a line item and we have the money, because otherwise, if we wait till the end of the survey, then we'll be looking at getting on the 26 or 27 budget.
Cycle, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep driving on, keep,
They're
right?
gonna be, they're gonna cost more than 350.
Oh, yeah, I know. They were.
Sandy is very crafty.
to get signs that last. And
Right.
yeah, the rock mount, and that's why we couldn't afford any new mounts. I mean, even the sign they put on Pheasant Branch School, they put on the same old piece of wood that's been there probably since the 70s. Because we did not. So maybe in the future, we look at maybe replacing it. I'm sure some of the homeowners wouldn't mind if we updated that stuff. So we can go in big. We got a good advocate and Alder Jackson over here. Sounds like so.
Now I have a motion by Elizabeth to table the decision for landmark signage until after the survey. Do you want to revise it?
I
or-
would like to
Yes.
revise that, Daphne. I think that's a great idea.
Yes, yes.
I think we should discuss it next meeting.
Next, okay. Let's add it to the agenda.
So we
Let's-
can at least get a budget together.
Yes.
for it.
Yes.
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay. So we'll add the signage to the next meeting.
Who does that research?
Well, I think what we can start with is the existing signage that's all around the city, and Daphne has that, and we can even provide that ahead of time so you can take through, look at it.
So
And-
I can pull up what we have from, the 2 years ago when we replaced all the signage, how much it cost. I think we got like a grant from Middleton Tourism to help with that. So I can pull, all of that together to see how much it cost. And there were a couple that are just still in my office because we couldn't afford to buy the new mounts and all of that. We can also, I can also look into, getting new mounts for those and talking to Alpha Graphics
Yeah.
to see how, so I'll pull together.
Okay. Thank you.
That rough budget, yeah.
And
Thank you.
can you add in what a park sign
Yes.
costs?
Mhm.
And asking only because if we're looking at the Ho-Chunk future mounding, at least that's, because those signs are so big, it'll be less than that at least.
Mhm.
That'll help. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. Good. All right. Anything else on signage? I don't think so. So we move to the last topic, which is the committee liaison. Questions to consider?
So just pulling up the questions, these were questions that the council had asked all committees in the city to kind of consider. The first is, if we have any committee liaison positions. I believe this one we don't, except I believe we have some of our members are with the Middleton Area Historical Society, which is very helpful. But they aren't a city committee. We just have, some members that are part of that. But they asked to consider any other position, other committees, if that would be helpful. The frequency of our meetings, and then finally, if we could consolidate with any other committee.
Okay, so the first one, we don't have any current liaisons with any other committee. We have worked with the Plan Commission on TIP 5. And I think I mentioned to Daphne some of the committees, because they're automatically notified just about the district. We're like, what? And I said, if they want me to come and explain what it is, that's fine. And I didn't get any requests, but I don't think we need a standing liaison with another committee. If I get an inquiry or Daphne gets an inquiry, like someone wants a contact, I would suggest Daphne just reach out to us all and see who's interested in that topic and wants to do it.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go with that. I think the monthly meeting, so question number 2, I think we should plan on monthly meeting, because if we plan on that 4th Wednesday, it's something predictable. So if someone needs or is thinking about doing something to a historic property, they know when we're meeting and they can plan out and coordinate and let Daphne know and then show up and do it. I think we need to at least schedule a monthly meeting. And if we don't have any business, we don't have the meeting. It's one reason why we keep members on the Landmarks Commission, because we don't have meetings just to discuss no meeting. But I would say stay with the monthly. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Is that pretty much?
Good.
Okay. And then committee consolidation. I don't think anybody wants us.
Would that jeopardize our CLG status?
Yes, that's what I was.
That's
also
a
gonna
hard
say.
no for me, then.
Yeah, landmarks usually, every city will usually have a historic commission or,
Yeah.
some kind of
Yeah.
preservation commission.
Sure.
And so I don't see us, it would be us probably bringing a committee into our committee, and I don't see us really having any relevance with
I
some
think,
of the other.
I think we're there to balance and ask the questions of other committees who are focused on getting something done, whether that's public works or planning or something. And when it affects something historic, we're that pause to say, hey, you plan on doing this right next to a historic landmark building. And you need to think about the impact or how you're going to build that pump house, because it's right next to a historic building. And so I think some independence on that and working with all the different commissions. So I don't really see that as a mission of necessarily any other commission when so I would say not look to combine. Does that sound?
Yeah, that
Yes.
sounds very good.
Sitting on council, this came from the fact that council felt there was too many commissions. So let's try to put them together. I think we put personnel and finance together. They said
Okay.
if one accommodates the other and we're all like in the same direction, let's just put it together. So we combined personnel and finance. I think there was but it was just too many commissions. They couldn't fill the seats, couldn't get people to be on them. And they said, well, why don't we just break them down and just combine them so we won't have so many?
Okay. Super. Okay, so is that clear enough? Do we have to give an answer back to anybody on these?
I
That-
just wrote down some notes and
Okay.
yeah, I'm sure
I got the
Alder
answer.
Jackson
I'll
could
speak.
report back. Yeah.
Plus we combined, Jeff, to just try and give you another committee to sit on. You'd really be. Good. Okay. Does that bring us to the end of the agenda? Okay, I know, Jeff, I promised you a 1-hour meeting every,
We knew that.
but we're still only about halfway through a council meeting, right? Okay. All right, super. Well, thanks, everybody. This was a high visibility thing, a lot of good discussion, but we wanted to get public input. And I think we have a definitive plan forward. And we'll go from there and we'll plan on the fourth Wednesday next month as the next meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second that emotion.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good. All right. Thanks for keeping me on track on
Thanks,
the
Jack.
Robert's rules.
Can I say something?
Yes.